Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Whoops. To get the right view here. Hello. Hi, Dennis.
Hello, hello, Tony.
So fun. We're going to have a full house today.
18 people signed up or so.
I know, right? Oh, and we've got some new faces as well. Hi, Chad. Hi, Ryan, Steve, Natalie, Josie's here. How beautiful. Tony Carey. All right. We're going to jump in and get started in just a minute. Hi, Tony, because we do have, we'll probably have about 16 join us. So I might leave one more minute. So good to see you guys. Tony, are you on that cliff overlooking the ocean?
I'm on a beach looking at the ocean. We have a storm here at the moment. It's very exciting. Pretty weird. And it's kind of foggy, and I'm told that the fog is smoke from wildfires in Canada.
Oh my goodness. And Tony's
3,000 miles away.
Wow. Wow.
3,000 miles away.
Yeah, I recognize that backdrop, by the way. But that is so sad. That's really terrible. Yeah. Sometimes in my dreams I'm sitting in that car with you, Tony, overlooking that beautiful view.
Yeah.
So good to have you today. Okay, we're going to begin. We're about 6 people short, but I'll orient them when they arrive because we've got some exciting things to do today. I'm going to shift the agenda a little bit today. So due to something that's going on very soon, and I want your feedback and input. It's like us in Luke 10 to get lots of input and feedback from all of our people. And so I'd love to do that today for a special event that's coming up. Okay, so let's start first by giving intros. Just do a quick intro round because we're going to have some new faces. We have some new faces on here. So intro round, your name, where are you located, and where you are in your facilitator training, if you can remember. If you can't remember, you're probably listed. So you did your training so long ago, you're done. So I'll jump in. I'm Tony Daniels. I am in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am done with my training, fully listed with Luke 10. Dennis, what about you?
Yes, my name is Denis Padrachikov. I'm also with Luke 10 and Nashville, Tennessee. And yeah, last I checked, I'm fully listed.
Yes. Susan.
Susan Ramsey, Naples, Florida, and I am fully listed.
Whoop, whoop. Chad. Hi, Chad.
Hi, I'm Chad Waller. I'm in Simpsonville, South Carolina. I am finally fully listed.
Yay!
I was a pastor, so it took longer.
Tony Carey. Oh, you're muted, Tony. You're still, yep, it's hard to get the phone unmuted. For some reason, it's a little harder. I think you tap your picture and then you can find it easier. But we will come back. Josie.
Josie Whalert in Grover, Colorado, fully listed.
It's good to have you, honey. Good to have you today. Thanks. Natalie.
Natalie Larson, Londonderry, New Hampshire, and I'm in the middle of leader team training.
Thank you. Tony Carey, we'll come back to you now.
Yeah, Tony Carey, Carrigaholt, west coast of Ireland, and I completed facilitator training some time ago.
Yay! Ryan.
Ryan Niebuhr, Fairbanks, Alaska, fully listed.
Whoop, whoop. And a trainer. And Dennis is also a trainer. So we'll just give a shout out to the trainers among us. Steve.
Steve Gilmore, Jackson. Oh, which one?
Welcome, Steve.
I am part of the Rock Tribe Build the Plane While You're Flying It experiment. So I'm at the front end of all this.
we're going to talk a little bit, just a little bit today about that. So welcome, and so glad to have you. You got pushed into this finally, but we've been wanting you for a long time. So we're super happy to get this opportunity to spend more time with you and see you. Thank you. Jonathan.
Jonathan Johnson in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Fully listed facilitator, trainer, also in training. And partly because I'm a trainer, I will never be done training.
That's right. Thank you, Jonathan. Jason.
Jason Twombly, Simpsonville, South Carolina, fully listed and a trainer.
Good to see you. Yeah. Joel, so good to see you.
Naples, Florida, unlisted.
In the process.
Intro training.
Got a
He's rocking it.
class
Thank
today.
you.
I got 8 people signed up for it.
Oh my goodness, Joel. Blessings on you. When is it scheduled?
It's 7 Eastern.
Today.
Yeah.
May God be with you. Oh, Papa, please bless Joel today. This is exciting. I can't wait. Kapil, it's so good to have you. Where are you and where are you in your training? Just introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I'm Kapil Paul from Chandigarh, India. So I am in the middle of being trained for Children 1. So I'm sort of going through the training again. So
beautiful. It's so good to have you. Thank you for coming. I'm so glad this time worked for you today. All the way in India. Thank you. Okay. So that's our quick intro. We usually do appreciation stories, but I'm going to save those because I want you to listen for me on some different types of stories today. So, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. But first, we're going to do our celebrate and announce. So we've celebrated some of you who are stepping into training and who are finally fully listed. And the other thing I wanted to do was give Susan a chance to give any conference last minutes for those of us who are participating in our conference, which begins in less than 10 days for some of us. I'm not sure exactly how many until Thursday night, but most of us, I think, are convening on Thursday night. So that's, I don't know how many days. Anyway, 10 days, maybe 11 days. So Susan, any last minute announcements about the conference that we need to know about?
Well, we are hanging out at 51 people. 7 of those are kids, which is super cool. And yes, we are really excited. We have 1 international person this year, Miss Jen Hamilton, which we're so excited that she's going to be able to join us.
Don't we have the Hydes as well?
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. I don't consider them international because they're from here.
Well,
but yes, the Hydes are coming as well.
Thank you.
So yeah, and we're set and ready to go, just finishing up details this week. So
great. And if you have any last minute questions, Susan is your go-to. We're incredibly excited about the conference. Thank you, those of you who are on this call, even who prayed yesterday, who were meeting to pray for that. I have to say, I have COVID right now. So that just was not in the, anyway, I'm doing fine. And actually last night while they were praying, I had this incredible inspiration on a Sunday when I don't work. And I was like, I have to go plan this session. And I sat down and within like 30 minutes to an hour, planned one of the entire sessions that God had just been stirring in my heart. And I was so excited and it took no energy out of me. And then I looked this morning and saw it was the same time as y'all's prayer time last night. So made me want to cry. And I just want to say thank you all for holding me in prayer. And that just makes my work much lighter this week already. So super incredible that God makes it work out in his timing like that so that we all can be a part of this whole process. So thank you guys so much. So sweet. Dennis?
I'm sorry, I'm looking for an icon to express support, and for some reason it raises hand. So just Tony, yes, feeling it for you, and yes, thank you so much. I'm sorry
he's
about
praising
interruption.
Jesus. Praising Jesus, yes.
praying for Tony, yes.
Brother, I see that hand.
Yay!
Y'all are so precious. Okay, so I do give y'all permission at any time during the conference to just yell out, "Help them, Lord Jesus." Okay, we can totally have a different culture about us. So at any moment, if you think we all need help, just yell out, "Help them, Lord Jesus." I'm all for that cultural encouragement that some of our brothers and sisters do regularly in their gatherings. Okay. The other announcement today, which is super fun, and Steve alluded to it. Some of you may not know this yet, but Rock Tribe is a church planting network. They have several centers. I think one in Kansas City, one in Laramie, another one in somewhere else. Steve, do you know where the other one is?
New Mexico.
New Mexico?
I think so, yeah.
So, and then they have like house churches everywhere. So they are doing an experiment, and Kent Larson is heading that up to take all of their leaders through Church 101. And that has meant that 4 of our trainers are going to be training 12 facilitators this month to lead 60 people, roughly. I don't know how many actually showed up last night, Steve, but close to 60 people, 50 to 60 people through Church 101. In the next 6 months, they're going to do it a little slower. It's a little different experiment, and we're just loving what this could teach us about consulting work and how to best come alongside organizations that are trying to train their people in our rhythms. So that's just really exciting. And we wanted to give a shout out to those new facilitators who have just signed up. Steve's one of them. I don't think we have any others on the call that are new in that regard. Josie's going to be a part of that experiment. And then several of us trainers are in on that too. So thanks, Steve, and everyone else that's jumping in. It's just going to be an incredible thing. The other thing that leads us into our agenda for today is, many of you know Life Model Works. Some of you may know that this year they're doing 4 webinars, and they're focusing on Hesed community, which we would probably call church, but we would define that very differently, because we would define a church as secure attachment to each other and to God together. So they're calling it Hesed communities, right? Because obviously they're trying to help people understand a different concept of being church, which is the sticky kind of love that has your back no matter what, that's glad to be with you no matter what. And so they're doing a series of webinars to prepare all of us for the spring in-person training that they will be doing, or gathering that they'll be doing. They've invited Luke 10, John Kent and I, to show up on this 3rd webinar, which is on Hesed communities. I think it's called Reviving Hesed Communities. And they want John and Kent and I to answer some questions for them about Luke 10. And as John and Kent and I started to prepare for this, it occurred to me today that I was like, you know what? I'd rather hear from my people on these questions, and not just assume things or think things up based on what I see going on. I really want to hear from you. So I'm wondering if I can throw out 3 questions to y'all today to listen on, and then go the round and share on each one of these questions, so that John and Kent and I can wrap Luke 10 in a way that actually comes from you guys, our facilitators, and what you're seeing in your own lives and in the lives of those you've been training or you've been living this with. Does that sound like an okay experiment today to do, and see what things we learn from each other in this process? Yeah. Any questions so far about anything? Okay. And the webinar, just in case, we're going to try to advertise it to our people so that you guys know when it's happening. But I'll let you know right now, it will be literally the Friday after the conference. So the conference ends on Monday. We come home, fly home on Tuesday. And then this webinar is on the 6th. And it takes place at 3:00 p.m. Central Time. So again, hopefully we'll send out something so that people can, I think you have to purchase an attendance ticket, I think, for that webinar. And And if not, I mean, if not, I'm pretty sure we'll get something out. But Life Model Works, it's on their site too. I think that's how you can register for that. But we'll make sure we get something out probably the week of the event. But just so you can mark your calendars. Okay. So let's take a deep breath and do a body scan. And then I'm going to give you 3 questions, and we'll just go off for about 5 minutes maybe and listen. Okay. If you have a golden memory, as we call it, or a memory where you can connect to Jesus quickly and you see him there or feel him present, go ahead and take yourself there in your imagination. And if you've got a really, really tough check-in this morning and you're just like holding it together, you just take this silent time to be with Jesus however you need to be with Jesus, okay? I know there are people on this call with a lot of grief and struggling in their space right now with some heavy, heavy stuff. So I see you guys, love you so much, and just hope that this can be a refreshing break for you today. Papa God, we thank you so much for holding us and being with us. And thank you that you can hold all of the things that are happening in our lives and in our midst. A friend of mine who's a Quaker once said that silence is like a jar, like a clear jar that sits in front of us, and we can put all of our thoughts inside of that jar as we're in silence. It's like a container for us. And so I pray that in the silence today, you will fill our jar with the things that you're calling to mind, the things our soul needs from you and with you, and ways that you want to lead and guide and coach us. We just invite you, Holy Spirit, to have full reign among us, and thank you and praise you. All right. Dennis, I'm wondering, or Susan, one of you, if you could type these questions for me in the chat. Yeah, Susan said yes, Dennis. Thank you, Susan. That way, if we go silent, you have them and you don't have to worry about forgetting them. The first question I'd love for us to listen on is, in your local environment or in your family or in your ministry, however you're implementing Church of Two and Luke 10 rhythms that you've learned, how does Luke 10 create spaces for securely attached communities to form? So how does Luke 10 create spaces for securely attached community to form in your experience? That's the first one. The second question is going to be, what practice has been most transformative for you? Or for your community, your family, whatever Hesed community you've got. Repeat, is that what you're asking me to do, Susan? Okay, the first one or the second one? Okay, the second one, what practice has been most transformative? And then the third one is pitfalls to avoid. What pitfalls in our training or in your experience with Luke 10 should we alert people to avoid? Like, don't go there, or don't do this, or maybe it's, you might think it's this way, but in the end it's not. So hang in there. Like, whatever that might be, I guess that we'd call it an advertencia in Spanish, like a caution sign. I think that's right. Like, oh, don't go there. Okay. Repeat all of them one more time. The third one, pitfalls to avoid. Yeah, pitfalls to avoid. Great. Okay, how about 4 minutes of listening? That gives a little over a minute on each one. maybe 5. If no one comes back, I'll add another minute. Because that is a lot to listen on. Thank you so much for being willing to do this for our appreciation time today and our training snippet as well. See you in a little bit. Neat. Free to wrap it up and come on back. All right, I will go last on this one because I want to hear from y'all mainly. And yeah, so Dennis, do you want to start us off?
Sure, yes, thank you. So as far as local environment, the way Look 10 creates space, one feedback comes to mind. People say, I did not know that I was longing for a space like that, a space to share at this deep level, this deep of a level. As far as most transforming practice, it differs for me personally. It's listening to Jesus, namely receiving attunement from him. As far as community, checking in, sachet, interestingly enough. And as far as pitfalls to avoid, I would say there is a need for discernment. Not everyone is seeking deeper connection. So understanding where to extend empathy and where not, and the level of empathy, I think is important.
Wow. So hold on, just give me a second to catch up with you. You said the most formative practice would be like checking in with sachet. Is that what you said?
For community, yes.
Or actually, you said, or for community, you said listening to Jesus, receiving attunement.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then not everyone's ready for this level of connection. Is that what you said?
Yeah, kind of discernment of how much empathy to offer. Yes.
Wow. Good. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Susan.
Yeah. So yeah, for the first one, similar to what Dennis said, but I said that we provide space for each person to show up truthfully where they truly are, while receiving full acceptance. And then the second one, safe environment to grow, mature, and mess up sometimes. So I think we have a great environment for people to make mistakes and learn from them.
Wow.
So, and I didn't get to the third one.
These are so good. I'm so glad we're doing this. Thank you, Susan. Thank you. Chad.
So the first one, doing the rounds and rhythms naturally give room for secure attachment. As a facilitator, even as a CO2 partner, when I am vulnerable, it encourages vulnerability. It just happens. So much different from a church model or a counseling model where someone just gives advice. Even hearing Dr. Jim Wilder say one of the reasons he went away from counseling was he couldn't stand there not being heart-to-heart connection. And you, in facilitating and with CO2 partners, you can't do it without heart-to-heart connection. And I love what happens. I actually saw it happen just recently in a meeting we were in. It was just a gathering and it was going nowhere except fellowship, which is beautiful. I get it. But I knew there was so much more that needed to happen. And as someone became vulnerable, the room just changed and heart-to-heart connection happened and everyone opened up, and it ended up being the most beautiful time of connection for something we'd been praying about. Luke 10 to be praying, how do we form organic community? And it was simply the rounds and rhythms. Stick to the script. Works every time. For me, the biggest, most transformative practice was the 5 things that we offer when heavy emotions are presented. Coming from a charismatic background where no agency was ever given to minister to anyone, you just did it because that's what you do. And those things I find in many calls I'm on, those things are so shocking to people. And I now practice it just in my everyday life. I literally just say to somebody I come in contact with when they present heavy emotions, how can I be with you in this moment? It has changed my life, realizing that I am not responsible for changing them, but I can be with them. The last one, don't ever, ever let anyone advance because they have gifts or they have ministry experience. Never. Stick to the proven training. It is so necessary. And I know I'm a broken record on that, but I am proof of it. It is so necessary. People be given the time to unlearn things that they think they know so that they can learn the things that they need to know. Thank you, Ryan Nienaber.
Thank you, Chad.
And Jason Twombly, thank you for never giving up on me.
Thank you so much, Chad. So good. Thank you. Yeah. It's going to be really fun when we actually do this webinar and y'all hear me saying your words. That's going to be super fun when I'm there. I'm just going to feel all of y'all with me, and that is beautiful. Thank you, Chad. Thank you. Tony Carey, what about you?
I'll do what us Irish people do. We tell stories. Jesus gave us a command that we love one another as he loved us. And that, in fact, was to be the testimony, the witness of us being Christians. How did we do that? Well, when I started using the check-in in our group, people began to see into each other's lives, people that they had met with many times beforehand, and a great empathy grew. So the checking in was just incredible. How then do we continue to love each other? We listen to Jesus. This is the answer to the second question. We listen to Jesus, what he tells us, or what getting words for other people, praying for other people for what we hear of Jesus saying. So listening to Jesus, personally huge and fantastic in the group as well. Pitfalls would be very similar to what Dennis said. There are some people who just don't want it and can be disruptive, actually. And in my group, when I started practicing this, and these were influential people left, which in some ways meant they had people questioning why did they leave, because there must be something wrong going on there, you know. But yeah, just again, discernment as to who wants this and who doesn't.
Wow. So good, you guys. Thank you, Tony. Yeah. Josie.
Thanks. The first one for me is, I think, better expressed in a little story also. There's so much care and safety and intentionality oozing from like every part of our spaces. And our local leader team is 6 adults, 7 kids. We were at the lake like a month ago, and they have not been interested in the tech, like the online side of things, and for different reasons. One's a teacher and is with screens all day and is just sick of it, you know. But one of those individuals is extremely introverted, does not like being around people, really fought us when we were growing from a church of 4 to a church of 6, and it was a very, very long, gentle process. And a month ago, he said to me, usually this is completely exhausting for me to be around this many adults, 5 other adults. And he's like, this is actually refreshing for me when we were there for like 6 hours. And it's like, this is blowing my mind. This is refreshing my soul. And it's like, yeah, we've been talking about intentional community for 3 years. It's refreshing when it's intentional and safe and all those things. So that was really exciting. Most transformative, I think, would be the presence that results with check-ins. And I think what's transformative changes, you know, what comes up as most transformative changes for, you know, what season we're in. But we are in a season of really intense grief and working through tragedy with our very young children. And my 5-year-old told me the other day, Jesus is really mean to let babies die. But Jesus is good. So he's good. That just feels mean. I'm like, that's amazing, you know, for young kids to be able to express what they need to express, and it's safe. But with that, I notice that would be like a pitfall that I notice when we do a lot with like local churches and leaders, and I've noticed people begin to camp in the heavy check-ins without returning to joy, because some leaders, based on my observations, so I take that as you will, but I think they get so excited that their people are finally sharing that then they don't like go to the next step.
Wow.
And so I find myself constantly having to remind, like, okay, but then, let's listen to Jesus and let's return to Jesus and return to joy and do these things. Because one person starts sharing so heavy and then let's care. And like the next person, and then it just becomes this like misery loves company sharing, which it's so beautiful. Your people are finally talking, but the next step or the goal is to be, moving to Jesus and experiencing that joy that comes with the presence of the check-in. So that would be my thing, is just remember to finish the process once people do start bearing their hearts.
Good. Yeah. Remember to at least offer the question, right? What would you like from us today? And then shift that into something that's actually sets them up for success to some degree, is what I hear you saying, and in that grief or in that pain. Yeah. Thanks, Josie. Natalie.
So for number one, being Jesus-led, that people really can and must hear Jesus's voice. And I love that Luke 10 wants us to be so securely attached to Jesus that his voice holds the most clout. And that I'm learning how to hear that voice and then respond to that voice. Being joy-fueled attaches me to community. So in previous environments, it was often fear-based, not joy-fueled. And the difference is life-changing for connecting people to each other as well as to Jesus. And I just really, it's just like, I want to cry as I think about that. And then also in the closing round, that we don't learn just by the experience, we learn by reflecting on the experience. And that practice is also, it gives people space to be transformed and know that they're being transformed. And I love that. So number two would be the gratitude stories. And then plus our heavy emotions don't have to be scary when we check in with each other. So those two together, because I can't just have one. And then number three, I just would piggyback on Chad, that people who have been in ministry for a really long time have to unlearn things. And we have to be humble about the places of pride. And so going through the training is just absolutely critical. And I'm in that process and feel that. I feel it deeply, but it's good for my soul. So there you go.
Thank you, Natalie. Ryan.
Like Tony, I thought of John 13:35, where Jesus says, by loving one another, you'll let people know that you're my disciples. So I think Luke 10 helps us create space locally for HESED community through skill training. And that offers a demonstration of love that gives everyone in the group purpose in Jesus's body. because their voice is heard.
Mm.
And it's a way that we love one another. The second question, the combined rhythms of checking in and listening to Jesus. And the third question, I wrote not doing an intro call. So having, and that, I mean that like by principle, not, you know, specifically. So I think it has to do with helping people know the difference between loving relationally and just wanting to.
Mm.
Over.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And it sounds like that pitfall everyone's saying about some people might not be ready. Some people might not want this. It's like do the intro call is kind of the action for helping discern whether someone's ready in a lot of ways. That's how we do it, right? There's other ways to do it, of course, but that's how we are trying to systemically do it, I guess, as far as the training goes. How we do it locally might look very differently than an intro call, but please don't avoid the intro call. Yes, Ryan.
Yeah, and the second part of that is it not only helps people discern whether it's the next step for them, but it helps them know what they're about to get, because when we didn't have the intercall before, it's a PDF. People just thought it was a Bible study, and it would be lesson 3 before they realized this really isn't a Bible study, is it? They would miss the whole thing. It's not what they expected.
Good. So it helps calibrate expectations.
Yeah.
Which is huge. Yeah. Thank you. It brings discernment and calibration. I love that. Thanks, Ryan. Steve, how about you?
There we go. For the first one, I think the practice of coming from church for too long, the practice of limiting how we respond to people without fixing, without telling them, without prophesying over them, just allowing them to have agency. Just say, how can we be together? And that's been profoundly space giving for people to continue to share. The second one is just maybe an observation for me that's been trying to do this in face-to-face community for a year, only a year. I have found that the people that are tracking with me in what I'm sharing from my heart and what I'm hearing from God are able to be with me in a Hesed loving way that's beyond anything I've ever experienced in 30 years of doing ministry while nobody sees my heart.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Give me just a second on that. Thank you, Steve.
And I think I'll just echo the pitfalls for me in transitioning from my pastor brain were to sit in a group full of people and not talk. And that if I spoke in those teachable moments, the whole thing shattered and the heart-to-heart connection doesn't happen.
So you're saying for you, the pitfall is to talk when you're not supposed to be talking? Wow. So true. Heard.
Yeah, but it's awesome. Awesome results.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Jonathan.
my soul is just brimming with everything that I'm hearing. Try to refocus on what I was thinking originally, but it is so key that we have practices and actions and skills. I remember Jason summarized some of what Luke 10 does as skills-based discipleship. And that is so unique, that we have kind of a how in the way we approach things. So maybe with that as a backdrop, I think all of the things I was thinking about are kind of in the same vein, that in our community, we all learn together, and that means that each and every person, I need to move my notes so I can still look at you, is encouraged to play their part, regardless of their age or their ability. In groups that I've been in, where some people are just really struggling, some people do it really naturally. Some people just don't get it, or they're just really below a maturity level where they can really grasp it. But we just let them go ahead and do what they do. And it just sends a message that you are you. You are who you are. And you are one of us. And those two things happening at the same time are just so good. What has been really impactful is responding to people with some attunement. I guess I'm seeing this especially in rounds. It's not just saying, okay, you're done, check, next. We're responding, we're highlighting something that we noticed about each person. So they get some feedback, they get some immediate response that shows that what they said was heard and was understood. But there's a pitfall in teaching all of these skills, which I think would be just a really rigid adherence to the right way of doing something. I mean, we have a goal, we have a place we want people to get to, but we really have to be the gentle, patient, spiritual parents that show the example and affirm anything that we see that's really helpful, and just give that one step at a time approach to helping people to improve in the skill, and not never wagging our finger at them, right?
So good. Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah. Jason.
So many great things being shared. But I would ask this question: who had the bright idea of gathering 5 to 9 adults in a Zoom room to talk about their feelings and church experience? Who in their right mind would do that, right? So zooming in, looking at this for the first time, what a crazy experiment this is. People from different attachment styles, Enneagram. This is going to be a mess. Heart-to-heart connection of the layers coming off as a mess. And that being said, it's critical to have a spiritual mom or dad there, somebody who has earned secure attachment of some kind, who can model presence, who can be a sense of stability, who can see through the cocoon of the caterpillar that has completely melted, because this is messy, and see the development of the people, and to see through the eyes of heaven. This is the first S. See through the eyes of heaven the imaginal discs of people that are in there, and not the things they're even saying or checking in with, because there's something else authentic in the midst of earning secure attachment. And how do we balance authenticity and attachment? So I would just add that as well, because so many things are happening. Relational blind spots are falling, defenses are coming up, armor is coming down, and all this happens at a very slow process. And friends, it can be messy. The most transformational practice is the CO2. Chad and I had a podcast about that. The most transformational practice is the CO2. I still stand by that. That is the differentiating factor between us, Luke 10, and other movements that are similar in heart-to-heart connection. Thirdly, the pitfalls, I can enumerate a bunch of them, would be speed outside of attachment. let's
Ooh.
do this.
Oh man.
Let's slow this down. Because onboarding people who are excited about this, we love it all, but we want to retain control.
Mhm.
A lot of people I've experienced want to do that, and we want to go at truly at the speed of belonging and the pace of attachment. Lots of people want to be cured, but not everyone wants to go through the process of healing.
Mm.
And a really good spiritual mom or dad can discern who those people are, and it'll take time to do that. And it's worth going slow to speed up in the end.
Mm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Joel.
So for question number one, I put it's a safe house. You know, get you out there away from the enemy. And you do that by modeling emotions and, like we've been talking about, not fixing someone, listening, asking them what do you need from us. That's so different from everything we've experienced in the past. We've all been a project that someone's got to fix it. And it's like, not helpful. No. What has been most transformative personally for me, becoming more emotionally aware. I was just like, I don't know what I'm feeling. I've got two emotions. Either I'm sad or I'm happy or I'm angry. And that's it, one or two. And so expanding that has been really helpful for me. A pitfall to avoid. So when you're doing a CO2 with someone and you're daily sharing and speaking into each other's lives, you develop an intimacy there. And so just keep that in mind if you decide to change CO2 partners, because it's severing a relationship, and it's touchy. Yeah.
Good. And Joel, I think that's so crucial. Not just in the CO2 level, but also in the leader team level. You know, if you're a leader team facilitator and you need to step away from that team, that's going to be hurtful, possibly if it's done too quickly as well, because ideally you have formed secure attachment with everyone in that team, and so flippantly stepping away from that could be very hurtful for your team, just like stepping away from a church of two could be hurtful as well. So because we're forming Hesed community, we process leaving each other in a totally different way than most Christian organizations and churches that I've ever been involved with. We take time to build a raft, so to speak. I think it was Pollock, a sociologist, I think, who wrote about the raft concept of reconciliation, appreciation. What's the F stand for? Anybody help me out if you remember reading the article? Future, looking at the future. Or no, because that's the T, thinking about the future. Farewells is the F. So we build a raft when someone needs to leave a CO2, a home church, a leadership position in Luke 10, a circled position, or even a leader team facilitator who needs to step away. We encourage them to build this raft to make sure they take the time to walk through all four of those things with their people. Joel, thank you. I would not have thought about that at all in this. And I think that is very, very, very good. Beautiful. We do have a leader lesson, I think, with that raft in it, and some of, at least there, it's somewhere. If y'all want training on that, let me know. We can find it and give that to you guys again. If it's not in a leader team, it needs to be a leader team lesson. It needs to be in one. So team, let's look at that training circle.
I didn't hear most of what you said. The long people are outside the door, so I'll watch the recording and get it.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Kapil.
The answer to the first question, I love how we provide whole brain experience. I think what I feel is most people that come to the thing are just done with the information part.
Kapil, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak a little louder for us and start over? Because
Okay.
I did not hear you well.
I think I have some problem with my
That's better.
earpods.
Good. Okay. That sounds
Okay.
great. Go for it.
Okay. Okay, great. So what I'm saying, the answer to the first question that I've written is, I love how we provide people whole-brained experience. Because most people that come to Luke 10, I think, are just done with the information, right? They don't. So I love our learning policy that we talk about. It's very different. And the second question, what practices has been most transformative? I love the way we create a safe space for people to share their heavy emotions, right? And that further leads to vulnerability and transparency. The way people, really take time to open up their hearts, and they're very genuine about sharing. So this all happens because of the multiple choice questions or choices that we present. And the pitfall to avoid is, I think, the temptation to talk and provide solutions. Because when someone is coming, I agree with Steve, as he said, the pastor, is always there to provide people solution to their problems. So sometimes I have just to hold myself, and someone is sharing a heavy emotion, is in trouble. I somehow want to provide them for a solution. Hey, wait, I have a solution to your problem. But just to hold yourself and just to not provide solution has been the biggest change for me. Yeah. So that's the pitfall.
Thank you, Kapil. I love that. And I have to say, it's so hard. It's so hard. I was last week at the table with my daughter, and she's sharing all about school, and she's crying, and I am literally sitting there giving her advice before I realize what I'm doing. And she's like, "It's not helpful, Mom." Then I switched to trying to connect her to Jesus, and she's like, "I don't want to talk to Jesus." And it wasn't until then that I finally was like finding Jesus myself, soothing myself, asking Jesus what I needed to know for her. God, how am I supposed to respond to her right now? And he was like, just attune to her. And I was like, oh, well, there's that, isn't there? And as soon as I started just attuning to her, she just starts opening up, and we get to memories, and we get to all these things, right? But even me, right? I'm like, goodness gracious, you would think I would know this by now. But no, I'm still trying to give solutions and just, make someone connect to Jesus. Because I know if they'll just connect to Jesus, it'll be better. But it's not what Jesus thought she needed to do, apparently. And it is ironic too, because I kept hearing Jesus say, Tony, so often they're going to connect to me through you. So you attune, right? Because I just want them to connect to him, and like get out of the way, which is always beautiful, right? But not when they don't want that yet, when they would rather connect to a human first. Anyway, so fascinating. Thank you. Yeah, just really, really identifying with that, Steve and Kapil, and loving that you brought that up again. Neil, welcome. It's so good to have you. We did a different sort of thing today. We spent about 4 or 5 minutes listening on a few questions. The first question was, how does Luke 10 create spaces for securely attached community to form? And then what practices have been most transformative, and what pitfalls do we need to avoid in this whole adventure that we're on together? And then we went around, and everyone was able to share those things. So the recording of this is going to be gold. And Neil, but go ahead and just introduce yourself to people, your name, where you're from, and where you are in your training, and just say hi, because we would love for people to hear your voice and know where you're at.
Right. Hi, everyone. I'm super encouraged actually to see so many men here. That's good, isn't it? Normally it's that's good. I'm not against females, but good to see many men here. Neil Bradshaw from London. Where am I in my training? I'm got a I don't know. At the moment, I've got a Church 101 group which is forming into a leader team, and that's where I'm being trained at the moment. That's where Jesus is training me at the moment. That's what I have to say. So
it's beautiful.
And Tony's given me great feedback, great training with what's going on there. So loving it at the moment. It's a great wonderful team. So yeah.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you so much. So Neil had a Church 101, and Neil was with Luke 10 before our formal leader teams even existed. He was with Luke 10 before we had a training pathway. And I'm going somewhere with this, Neil. So as was my husband, I will add, and myself. And so we've recently started a local leader team as well. And my husband and I were processing last night. So anyway, so when Neil started the leader team after his Church 101, he just kept doing check-in and listening. And then you add, maybe some Bible reading to it, or just whatever y'all want to do. Because back in the day, before we had our leader team rounds, that's what we did. We just kept checking in and listening together, and maybe we would listen around. Do we want to read the Bible together? Do we want to read a book together? Because we didn't even have leader lessons. Like, that was it. We had nothing. It was like, good luck, which in some ways is very freeing. But in other ways, it's not very reproducible if you have people that don't feel yet like they're fully formed, right? Like maybe they don't know the brain skills, and they don't have the training, and they don't know appreciation stories. They don't have all the tools in the toolbox, so to speak, that they can just pull in for something like that. And so anyway, my husband and I were talking about that this week, Neil, because we were like, why was our leader team in Uruguay so much easier to form and a little different than this? And I'm scratching my head, and my husband says, because we didn't have any of your training to follow, and we didn't have to do those rounds. And we had a good laugh, and we thought about you too, Neil. So yes, it is a little harder with the rounds, but there is a method to the madness that hopefully gives us some support. And Neil communicated that it really helps other people have a track to run on too, so that they feel like they've got some support in forming their own relational capacity, so that they can lead these leader teams or facilitate these leader teams. And everyone feels held and supported to some degree. I had a good laugh. Thank you, Neil, with that. And that is what we're finding with local expressions. And I think Josie kind of commented on this too. These local Hesed communities grow slower. They seem to grow a lot slower through the rounds, so to speak. And it is a fascinating thing. And attunement, what Jonathan was talking about, that attuning to each other feels a lot deeper in our local experience, at least, and it takes a lot more time. And we tend to bump into each other a lot more, meaning, our weaknesses can hurt each other a lot faster than on an online leader team. And so we actually get into conflict recovery a lot faster. So Matt was like, you know what, I think maybe we need to put that leader lesson on conflict, like right there after the forming of a leader team for local teams, because they're going to need it a lot sooner. So as you all delve into local Hesed community where you are, using our rhythms, using your training, using your skills, and you start to see these things, we want to hear about it. We want to hear what's most helpful. What can be more helpful. And we want you all to be communicating with each other and open some spaces for that to happen, which in our leader team facilitators training, that really is where the sweet spot of that happens. So if you're leader team facilitators, that's a plug for that training. because we do want to continue to equip you guys in that. Okay, that wasn't planned, sorry. We have 25 minutes left in our time together. And I think I'd like to just do a reaction round with you all around how does all this land on you? You know, I know someone might have said something and you might want to react, kind of like I've been able to react to some of you. So I just kind of led in that. But I just want to open that space so that you can say, yeah, what so-and-so said was really good, or this is how this is impacting me, all of this. So it could be an extended closing round, but if we do the reaction round quickly, we will have a separate closing round. So it just depends on how long this goes, but really want to give you guys time to react. So take 30 seconds and a deep breath and just ask yourself, what gets stirred up in me as I hear everything that I have heard? And Neil, you'll get to go last. That way you can share what's stirred up in you based on what you hear. Okay, so I'll stop and give you guys about 30 seconds. Another way to ask this is anything else? Anything else on all of this? Yeah. Anything, God, you want us to know about all of this? Ooh, that would have been fun. How do you feel about us forming Hesed communities? Oh my goodness. Mm. Mm. Dennis, you want to go first?
Yes, I would like to react to what Chad shared about some educated, strong leaders coming and realizing they need to unlearn. And for me, it takes, it seems that it will take a lot of humility on their behalf. And I'm so thankful that we encourage our facilitators at Look 10 to model so they can share at a deep level. They can share from their humble experience. And I find it fascinating because what we're doing, we're not doing anything hard, I mean, complex. We're just following the rounds. It's like simple practices. And yet here we are touching on something very important in Christian spiritual walk, humility. It's one of the foundational values in Christianity. So just wanted to reflect on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Sounds like an added caution. We'll take humility.
Oh, a test. Will you take humility,
now.
right?
Maybe we should put a big caution sign, you know, at the facilitator training level and be like, caution, we'll take humility.
Yes. How are you doing with humility these days? Yes.
Woo. Thank you, Dennis. Josie, any reactions? Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, first, I just feel so refreshed. It's been a lot of hard lately, so just to come on here and hear all the beautiful things everybody has to share and reflect on is really refreshing for my soul in a deep way. But I also, you know, I was thinking about Hesed communities. God reminded me of different activities we did in different seasons of youth group, and what we're not asking people to do is a trust fall with a bunch of people they don't know, where you're going a little bit too far into your uncomfortable zone and hoping that people catch you, but I don't really know if they will. It's more like the trust exercises or games where you've got 4 people sitting in a square and you know, everybody leans on somebody's lap. So then when you lift your legs up off the ground from like a bridge position, everybody's legs are holding everybody up all at the same time. And we're all being held as we're all holding. And it's not as big of an ask, but it's still a measure of trust. and it's more safety built in from the start than what we see with like one person just falling blindly and hoping they don't crash. And so I don't know, I'm just appreciating that visual of what we're really doing and what's actually happening. So
Wow.
my imagination is tickled.
Thank you for that image. I really enjoy it. And I think one of the things I would add to that is it's still intimate. You know, it's not as risky, but it is intimate, which is risky, right? In a different way. So there's safety and risk and intimacy still. So thank you. It's a really beautiful imagery. Yeah, thank you so much for that. I'm going to take that with me. Chad.
Yeah, so I was just so incredibly blown away by hearing everyone's answer to those questions. It was beautiful. And so I asked Jesus to help me see, what am I seeing here? What is going on? And all of a sudden I saw this beautiful diamond, and Luke 10 was that diamond. And as each person looked at one facet of the diamond, I literally saw Natalie saying, come over here, see this part. And I realized as I listened to each person, I saw the diamond more clearly. And I could see the joy in Papa's eyes at the diamond of Luke 10, what he has created and what he's releasing to the church. And I realized I got to see it all better by seeing through your eyes, seeing your the different perspectives. Anyway, as my friend Ryan would say, over.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you. Tony. You'll have to unmute. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm grand, yeah. The thing that struck me the most, and it was really very nice, was the similarity of the things that people were sharing. I mean, there were different things, but there was, you know, the gist of what most people were saying was similar. It just goes to show you the gold that's in the practices of Luke 10 and the value that it has. I mean, here are people from all over the world really talking about their experience, and there's a unity in it, which is really lovely. Yeah, really lovely.
Wow. Thank you. Beautiful. Jay. Oh.
Yeah. I really liked what Steve Gilmore had to say from a personal testimony of pastors talking too much. And if I can get in front of like 1 million pastors, I would love that opportunity to do that, to bring them to the collateral damage, the impact of what conversational narcissism has done to the body of Christ. And I would say that the body, the capital B, the body of Christ has kept the score. And we're feeling the seismic effects of that. And as I'm hearing this, I'm sensing the love that we have for the bride of Christ. And we are forming new rounds, not the rounds of a Dr. House, if you remember that show, who knew the diagnostics and knew some stuff, but his bedside manner was really, really poor. But we're forming new rounds. I'll just leave us with this verse, Song of Solomon 5:7. And maybe you've seen this in your life. It's all about the one looking for Jesus, looking for the lover of her soul, but gets abused because of the narcissistic bullies that have allowed themselves, that we've allowed to be there. It says, as I walked throughout the city in search of him, the overseers, the elders, stopped me as they made their rounds. This is the Passion Translation. As they made their rounds, they beat me and bruised me until I could take no more. They wounded me deeply and removed my covering from me. Luke 10, I believe, is prophetically creating new rounds for the shepherds as we're all becoming spiritual moms and dads.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm just thinking of I know there's a response. There's a lot of church that are call and response and call and response. And after reading the word of God, I think there is a response that they usually say. And is it like, thus says the word of the Lord? Is that what it is that they help me out, people who are from call and
Thanks
The word
be
of
to
the
God.
Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you
Thanks
say?
be to God.
Thanks be to God. Can we all just say thanks be to God together in response to his word or those words from the scriptures? Yeah. Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God.
Thanks, Jay. Thank you. Natalie.
Wow. Oh, wow. That was really amazing what you just said, Jason. That's a lot of fodder there. That was, I gotta re-listen to this. It was really good. Yeah, so what I would like is I would like more information on the process for leaving. You just really totally piqued my I always felt like Brian and I did that well. But yeah, it would be really good to see that in black and white. So there you go.
Beautiful. Thank you, Natalie. Yeah. Ryan.
What Steve said about his heart not being seen for 30 years gave me a lump in my throat. And yeah, I'm not sure what to do with that, but that's what stood out to me.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm just pausing so much because I'm hearing so many voices in my own head going, saying a lot of things. So just pausing to listen and hold space for that because I think that's weighty. And I think a lot of us have lived that. Yeah. So thank you, Steve, for putting words to it and Ryan for holding space for it. Steve, what about you?
Thank you, Jason and Ryan. Both of those hit me deeply. I lead or facilitate, my language now, addiction groups. And we often get new people in who are sure they don't belong there because they certainly don't have any problems. And we'll often do a little short story round of people's stories. And in the end, we ask the new person, do you think you might fit with us? Do you think you might belong in this group? And that's my takeaway is I think I might belong in this group. So thank you for all your stories.
Thanks, Steve. It's beautiful. Jonathan.
I'm really struggling to process everything that I've heard. I remember there was one person who shared something. I thought, I definitely want to practice that. And now I can't remember who said it or what it was. Yeah, just so much. I'm just overwhelmed by it. I did want to just highlight though, just noticing that I think we came into this meeting with an expectation, we had there was an email that said, this is what we're going to do. And now we're just going to try something else. And it's so great to see how much agility there is for us to respond and take a new direction and do the adventurous experiment together and see such amazing dividends. So I think that was just the one thing that I would highlight as a backdrop to it.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah. Listening to Jesus, even if you have an outline, right? He trumps the outline. Thank you. Yeah. Kapil.
Yeah, I just loved what everyone shared. It's just so helpful. And I kind of feel that that all of us combined have shared uh, what Luke 10 is all about, right? So all the wonderful stories. I like to react to what Jason said, about this crazy idea of, connecting with people on a Zoom call. So I just love, this idea that how even technology is playing a big role, right? And it's a very new thing. I believe that during COVID, it was a necessity for people to like do things online, but even post COVID, and how this has been like changing lives, this model. I mean, I'm just in total awe of what is happening all around the world through the help of technology, how we are connecting. It's very different, from how most organizations work, how they place people physically in different locations, and but we don't have that system in place, and yet, a huge revolution is taking place, is underway all over the world. So I'm just so grateful to God for that.
Thank you, Kapil. I'm so glad you got to be here today. I know every other month you can't make it because of the time. So thankful we got to see you today and you came. Thank you. Yeah. Very, very meaningful to have you a part of our community. Joel.
Well, I really resonated with the story, Tony, you shared about your daughter. And even though you didn't do it right, God showed up. He said, I got this. I got this.
Thanks, Joel. So glad we get to get it wrong, right? Someone pointed that out. We are a community that can get it wrong and we can repair. And thank you, Joel. So important to me that we get to do that. Yeah, thanks. And we get to grow intimacy through it. That's so cool. What other community, if that doesn't help build, has said, I'm looking for a book called Discord, The Power of Discord, but it's in there. I've never been a part of another community where I could get it wrong and actually grow intimacy through the fact that I got it wrong. It's just crazy. So thank you. Yeah. Neil, your thoughts and reactions. You only heard
to the thoughts.
Thoughts, but
my reaction to the reactions.
That's right.
Well, I'm loving seeing Kapil. I haven't seen Kapil for quite a time, so great to see you, brother. And I've got gentle curiosity, although we may not have time, with what Ryan shared about what. So I'm reacting to a reaction of Ryan's of what Steve said. My heart hasn't been seen for 30 years. That's all I heard, and my interest has been piqued by that. And I don't know if that can be shared a bit more, but you already did that. But wow, what a thing to say. So yeah. That's all I have to. What a thought.
Yeah, I think it was where people are tracking with me in this, checking in and listening rhythms where they're able to be with me in a Hesed way, loving, where I actually get to be seen as well, where people see my heart. He was saying that for 30 years, he ministered to people without his heart being seen. So these rhythms where he actually gets to be seen as well is pretty powerful.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for sharing that. Thanks, Tony.
Ryan, did you got your response? Okay, y'all moved around on your pictures, so I did get everyone right. Yeah. Okay. I'm wondering if I can have a permission to use this recording as a podcast. I don't think we shared anything so personal that it couldn't be shared. I could let everyone listen to it again in case there's any names that you use or anything personal that we would need to blot out. But I'm just curious if I could use it for that purpose, as also an advert for the workshop coming up with Life Model on the 6th of September at 3 p.m. Central Time, 2024, if anyone will be listening to this before that date. That there'll be a few other communities present. So I think Chris Caputo with Hesed Communities will be there discussing how they nurture Hesed communities. I know Jim Wilder and Michael Sullivan will be there. And then Table and Well will be there as well, representing how they nurture Hesed communities. So it'll probably be a fascinating conversation. We just want to support Life Model Works as well as they support others in what they're doing in preparation for their conference in the beginning of the year. Can I have consent? Does anyone have a paramount objection? I guess let's do that first. Paramount objection to me sharing this on a podcast. It's just incredible. Okay, so I do have consent then, everybody. If you want to give me consent visually, that would be great. Okay, since I have 3 minutes left, I want to whet y'all's appetite if I can with an announcement about the conference. If you're not going to be there, hopefully maybe we can have some recordings. I'm not sure, but we're going to try. But the inspiration that God hit me with yesterday was the developing of an idea that Shannon and I were having together a few weeks ago. You know how we've always wanted to do the Emmanuel night at the conference, and we're always trying to experiment on how do we do that well? How do we do that well? How do we do that well? Well, this year, we also always have a Monday meeting that is open. We leave it open to kind of do whatever the Spirit leads on Monday. So we're going to experiment this year. And during the evening on Sunday night, instead of having an Emmanuel evening, we're going to work through how to make decisions together with Jesus to plan Monday's meeting together so that 50 people listening to Jesus will come out of an hour and a half's time with an outline of what we want to do together on Monday to follow the Spirit and each other's hearts and get all of our needs met. But every voice is going to get to plan that meeting together, and we're going to model how to do that and give you an experience of what would it look like for 50 people to plan one meeting together. Is it possible? How do we do it and listen to Jesus together? And so the whole outline is done, and I'm super excited with Jesus about what he's going to lead us into for that Monday morning time together. So come ready to learn a model that you can take to your own family for what do you want to do on Saturday? Like that simple, so that every voice matters and everyone gets their needs met on how we spend our Saturday today, kids, all the way to we have a congregation of 100 people and we want to celebrate Easter this year. How do we want to do it? Or we want to revamp our Sunday morning worship service. How do we get everyone's feedback and Jesus's at the same time to plan that together where every voice counts? So that's a little preview of what we're going to get at the conference on that evening in that slot. And I can't wait to experiment with you. It might be a big fail, but it might just be glorious. So I appreciate our learning community that can jump in and do an experiment like that together. We did a little bit of that even today, doing some picture forming together, listening to each other, reacting. All right. Love you guys. Thank you for permission. I will probably edit the beginning and the end of that to make it into a podcast. I hope to upload it as soon as possible so that it can be out there and giving people the word of the meeting that's coming up. Yeah. And I'll also give it in the recap email, hopefully along with some resources, Natalie, on leaving well. Yeah. Great. All right. Love you guys. Time's up. Mwah. Take care, and we'll see you at the conference or at next month's Facilitators Gathering. Take care.
Good to see you guys.